All right, so we are here. We're here. Hey, I actually have a quick question for you. So,
So
would you rather explore space or the ocean?
give me space 100% because I am not trying to catch a ancient megalodon on like the Mariana Trench or something like that. Heck no, definitely space.
Yep, same. Also want to know if there's aliens out there, and plus, me and swimming don't mix, if at all. So,
You're
yes,
just
can't do it.
perpetuating stereotypes now.
Look, it is what it is, and also, the pressure would crush me alive.
Fair. Well, to our listeners, thanks for joining us, all five of you. Probably two of them are moms, but we're so happy to join you. First of all, I'm Demetrius,
And I'm Demetrius,
and together, Meech and Meech presents.
the Blurred City Podcast.
Yeah, so just a quick catch up. We're dropping to you. This should be June 8th on Wednesday. We're coming to you every Wednesday for a solid 12 to 13 episode run. We're going to reevaluate after that, see if we want to do a season 2 and what that looks like. But just so you know, we're going to be available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you find your available podcasts. You can also check out our Patreon. Right now, we have the first 2 practice runs we ever did. So first one is a Doctor Strange movie review, and second is an in-depth look character study of Gara. So quickly, you can just follow us at Blerd City 22, both on Instagram and Twitter. And before we kick off, let me throw it to our resident lawyer on the show for our legal spiegel.
Yes, and of course we have to do this legal disclaimer just to cover our bases. And it states that the purpose of this podcast is to explore digital and print media. All respective sources we reference are owned by their respective companies, and our thoughts and opinions are strictly our own and do not reflect any biases or corporate agendas. Your discretion is advised.
Yeah. So this next section, what we would typically do is call it what's hot. So like anything that's cool, popular, what people are talking about in the world of media or gaming or any just other platforms. But first, you have to kind of know who you're rocking with. And this being our first episodes, we kind of want to let you in on who we are first before we get into that. So just to answer the first question, who are we? You want to let them know who you are?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm Meech, also Demetrius, and I'm pretty much a black nerd. Been it all my entire life. I was pretty much ingrained to it from a young age. I was raised on many different TV shows such as Batman the animated series, Spider-Man the animated series, X-Men the animated series, but I was also raised on really goated video games, movies, and especially anime. Like your Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, Mobile Suit Gundam, the entire
Yes.
spectrum of Toonami. But yeah, just been ingrained in it since day one.
Yeah. And I'm Demetrius, or just if you want to go with my author name, Mitri A Dash. And similar to you, just even the shows that you mentioned, but growing up, I always had my head in the games and books and TV, just or in the clouds, like helping my imagination grow, help it to run wild. So it's something that's just been a part of me ever since I can remember. So that's definitely a big thing. So kind of what are your favorite shows growing up? I know you listed a few, but anything else?
Oh yes, one of my favorites growing up was Courage the Cowardly Dog. Is a great horror
Yeah,
inspired show. Don't know why
creepy.
we were allowed to watch it as kids, but hey, it's great. And of course, I got to talk about it. Avatar: The Last Airbender, one
Go.
one of the best shows of all time. No explanation needed.
Yeah, I heard they had a movie about that, but I'm not sure if that's a rumor or not. Did you hear anything about that?
Nope, never heard of that once in my life.
Okay, cool. So it's just that. Okay,
Yep,
cool.
yep. And what about you?
For me, obviously, like the goats, like you mentioned, anything on Toonami, just the trifecta of Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, Cartoon Network, but just a few shows other than like the upper S tier ones. But some ones that I like found appointment viewing were Danny Phantom,
Mm,
Ben 10, which I loved me some Ben 10. and then also Static Shock was definitely three that just like really stuck with me besides the goats. And just even with favorite shows, who's your favorite character currently?
Oh yes, and this is a question I've had answered in different ways, of different characters who are also my favorites. Uh, at one time I was gonna say Spider-Man, but he's always goated. He's always a great character, but I'm gonna have to go with the true goat, and that's Venom. He's my favorite character because he's just so awesome. Like design wise, he's a buffer Spider-Man with with the teeth and the tongue. He's an anti-hero, so he takes nothing from nobody, and of course, again, lethal protector. So he just goes out and he does what needs to be done. And I feel like he's a great character because he's basically Spider-Man without a lot of the flaws that Spider-Man has currently.
Mm-hmm. And what flaws would you say those are?
It's mostly in terms of writing. It feels like the writers at Marvel these days, they like to seem to want to make Spider-Man more of a man-child in the sense of like they won't let him grow out of like a high school mentality, like especially in films and whatnot, but also like such a like major self-sabotaging in life to where it seems like he just actively hates his own life. And like at a certain point you just have to go, enough is enough, man. Get it together.
So we already have to start out with beef because Spider-Man's my favorite hero, favorite character
Ooh.
ever growing up. I mean, for me, he was always relatable. Just him, like you were saying, starting off in high school and just like how he was one of the few heroes that like his secret identity was sacred to him because Peter Parker is essential to the character as much as Spider-Man is in a way that even if you watch the new Batman movie, you clearly see like people are there to see the Batman, not Bruce Wayne. But like with Spider-Man, it's like, okay, that balance. And then Spider-Man coming out with the Green Goblin originally, and then Spider-Man 2 being one of probably my favorite superhero show. I mean, movie until No Way Home came out. Just from just so many acting perspectives, the storyline was incredible. OG Aunt May gave one of the best speeches ever. So it was just like a character that I could definitely relate to growing up.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, and who could ever forget, with great power there must also come great responsibility, a goaded
Yeah,
line which we should always live by.
100%. So with us both being 26, how come you never left it?
Man, yeah. So I pretty much never left it because of the fact that like sure, like we age up, but I feel like there's a lot of undertones, a lot of different layers to different shows or comics or anything in the nerddom, and it can provide many great life lessons, great philosophical or existential issues, or even adult issues that come out. Looking at you, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's really just, and it also just brings me a lot of enjoyment. Like I can just sit in and watch stuff for hours.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and for me, why I never left, I just think that one, it's something that I truly love, just in every platform, every avenue of it. And for me, it also serves as an anchor, something that I can easily talk about. I know sometimes in social situations when I'm around a lot of people, it can be hard if I don't have that anchor to like kind of talk to and connect with for people in that perspective. But it's something that just I really love a lot. And if you really love something, why just like give up on it so easily? So that's why I never left it. But just going from there, what are you kind of into now?
Oh man, what am I into now? Well, I'm still in my Venom bag, still love reading the comics. Donny Cates had, in my opinion, the best run of all time for the character. Also into characters like Batman, Spawn, Green Lantern, and many different other Image comic books. But I'm kind of like leaning more towards the anime side as of right now. I'm watching, many different shows like One Piece, which is still goated, watching 86, which is a great
Oof,
anime, really
amazing.
great. And I was like, next season when? Uh, and then finally, I'm watching stuff like Rising of the Shield Hero and this really weird one called trapped in a dating simulator. Now, the name may sound bad, but it's actually a lot better than you think. Like the name pretty much is only about the premise, and it does and is completely different than anything I've ever experienced before. It is a great show.
Yeah, you know, a lot of people had thoughts about when they heard that.
Yep. So I had to dispel the rumors like just right then and there.
Yeah, for me, I'm into Marvel, DC, anime, as you said. Also, super into the Amazon shows. Amazon is like really in their bag right now with The Boys. Wait till we have that episode. Also, Invincible season 2. Please hurry up. So things like that. And then I am still, you know, on the 8-month wait list for a PS5. So,
I'm so sorry about that. I'm still enjoying mine to this day.
So wait till I get that. Yeah, but just with that, what has nerddom in general inspired you to create?
Oh man, well, it definitely like inspired me to create in terms of writing and fan fiction. Well, firstly, like the character of Venom inspired like my username, which is Absolute Venom. And through there, like I write many different fan fiction on the fan fiction side as well as Wattpad, just different stuff, like different content. And like my favorite is, of course, Symbiosis at World's End, which you can find on Wattpad. It's about the end of the world, but with symbiotes in it. And note, I did write it before King in Black. So before you start noticing some similarities, I did it first. Just leaving it at that.
And take your credit.
Yeah, even though I'm pretty sure I can probably not get any type of monetization from it, but hey, it's the pride that counts.
Yeah, for me, nerddom in general just inspired me to want to become an author. Right now, self-published, but I just remember always thinking of this one scene in my head, and it would play out constantly towards the end of whatever the story is that I was telling, but I never had anything for the beginning. And I remember just one night asking myself, okay, what comes before it? And then I started obsessing about it. And like, what's the story? What am I supposed to, how did we get here? So I just remember taking my laptop and going, hey, I don't really know how to make a movie, even though I want to see the scene as a movie one day. But I was like, no one can stop me from writing a story. So I just took off from there. First 50 pages were kind of tough, just getting used to writing again, since with high school, college, writing technical papers, it's not really fun. It's very basic, you know, point X equals Y equals Z. But just like getting it and going from there, it was just super fun. Even having dreams about writing or dreams about my book and then just putting that into words has been incredible. So that inspired me to write my first novel, Phantom Pains, A Most Irregular Tale, which is currently available on Amazon.
Nice.
I also finished a young adult mystery book, which is kind of like the love child between I Know What You Did Last Summer and All American. Ooh. And then I'm currently writing the sequel to my first book. So I'm excited. I'm excited to just get to the people. And before we even go to our deep dive, like just why we were inspired to create a podcast.
Yeah, I know for me, it was definitely because, you know, like as Black people, we definitely need to have like platforms out there, you know, spread the word out and just show that like, hey, we can like have some type of Black pride in something, and also to just really express just our love for the nerd culture and the nerd fandom, and to just bring that love out to the world and just let people know.
Yeah, it's so funny, just our story where it's like I moved to Houston and we meet for the first time. And it's like, oh, I'm Demetrius. You're also Demetrius. Same age, same interests. And it's like we're perfectly clones of each other. And even me just like wanting to have a podcast, but like not knowing what style of it that I wanted to do or who to do it with. And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, I have the perfect co-host waiting. So I come to you and it's like, boom.
Yep. And it was actually great too, because like I was just like in the midst of, you know, like when you're just in your thoughts and just like going through different things that are going into your mind. And one of mine was just like, I wonder how good would it be if I had a podcast? And then next thing you know, like maybe 5 minutes later, here you come just giving me the opportunity and giving me the opportunity and to be a co-host. And I'm just like, and shaking hands because we're doing it.
Yeah. So definitely we crossed the sacred timeline and ready to go. So now this is the portion of the pod where we put our scuba gear on and we get ready to go on the deep dive. So we're going to look at and discuss the cultural shift that started occurring in nerdom, being a geek, and how that's shifted into pop culture. So.
Oh, yes. And just to start things off about that, we really need to just talk about the stigma around nerd culture in general, and also as just Black nerds in general. And I find that like within nerdom, there's like a level of scorn and toxicity, especially when it concerns like people on the outside judging us. And we managed to boil it down to 4 different categories, but let's just say the third category has like 5 different subheadings, but we'll let you know when we get to that. So level
Right.
1 are superheroes, like your comic books, superheroes, the Marvel, DC, all that good jazz. And
Right.
then level 2 are your cartoons, that's like your Danny Phantoms, your Ben 10s, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney, all that.
SpongeBob's, yeah.
Yep. And then level 3, which is where the big category comes in, and where things start to get worse if you ever mention that you're part of this group. We title it the fantasy group, and that
Right.
consists of Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and Dungeons and Dragons. Like all those encompasses the fantasy group, and it just gets worse from there with the final category, the anime group.
The level of scorn.
The level of scorn that you get if you ever mention you're in the anime group is who boy.
Yeah. Yeah. So just going in depth for each tier and why we have it layered the way we do. So for us, we're both 26. So you can kind of backtrack the past 26 years why we kind of created it the way we did. So the superhero group is the group where a lot of people as kids, this is your trick-or-treat outfit for Halloween. This is what's on your lunchbox, your shoes, your clothing, the toys that you have. Everyone wants to be a superhero when they're younger, or at least they want to be a villain, but they know what it is. So just having fun with that, everyone's into it. And then, eventually grow out of it, but it's not something that is easily made fun of unless you're like really in depth about the comics. And from that perspective, moving on to the cartoon level. So cartoons, a lot of people growing up, again, Saturday morning, Friday night, that's the cartoons. That's where you are, Cartoon Central. And you age out of it. But even to this day, I can quote SpongeBob like easily. So even people my age can do that. So it's something that you age out and it kind of evolves, but you kind of look for more mature thinking of it. For the next level, our fantasy level, this is where it gets a bit dicey. So with, Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, D&D, there's a lot of lore and a lot of the fans are super passionate. And this kind of passion leads to different cosplays or different, let's say, language speaking that isn't normal to most people. So going from there, that's where a lot of scorn kind of gets drawn in. And then for the final level, anime, you are not getting credit for being able to do hand signs from Naruto like your Kakashi. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh man, trust me. As I mentioned earlier, like if you mention that you're deep into anime, like if you were considered a weeb. So like if you like and pretty much like most of this stuff, like specifically like from cartoons onwards, like it kind of feels like it starts at middle school. Like once middle school hits, all those things start to feel more like obsolete and childish. So,
Right.
for example, with the anime community, if you start like if you're in gym class and you start running like Naruto, you got a problem. If you start wearing that headband, you got a problem. If you start screaming like you're trying to go Super Saiyan, bruh. Like I still remember that Jalen going Super Saiyan video on YouTube.
Bruh.
The amount of roasting that man got,
It's not right.
it is legendary.
Right.
But yeah, it's like really in gist of it, it's like, hey, like if you were into those things, and especially like as a Black person, like, and you outwardly showed it, yep, get ready for all the criticism, all of the roasting, and all of the side glares. And don't expect to get like a boyfriend or girlfriend, especially like in a popular crowd anytime soon.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the big stigmas. And then even in the fantasy, going back to that, just even thinking about like how in depth or how deep you can get into it. I remember when I was about 8 years old, I was at my aunt and uncle's house. And this is, I believe it's before Goblet of Fire. And I've seen every Harry Potter movie up to that point. So I remember just saying spells but it was more gibberish. You know, I didn't really know what I was saying. I was young at the time. And I remember my dad just caught me and he called me over. And he was like, "What are you saying?" And I was like, I'm just saying spells from Harry Potter. And for the next 2 to 3 years, I was completely banned from watching Harry Potter. Like I was not going to the theaters to see it. If my parents were home, I could not watch it. So yeah, I don't know if you had a similar experience in the fantasy realm too.
Oh man, and that's the worst part. I did, and it was also with Harry Potter, where of course like I'm watching movies, of course like I'm mentioning spells like left and right. And if you're in the Black community, you know about the religious grandma. And I made the critical error of doing this all in front of her. And you know what? And you know what that led to? That led to a 30+ minute discussion, or more like a 30+ minute rant on how Harry Potter was turning me into a witch, how it was gonna make me stop loving God and start worshiping Satan, and that it's the devil, and just a whole can of worms that I was just over. So yeah, it was rough.
So you got that "come sit next to grandma, baby" speech.
Oh nah, it ain't even like that. It was like, "Boy, get over here."
Yeah, similar experience. But just transitioning from there, we can kind of get into the stigmas and how some of them are accurate based on the toxicity in the culture.
Oh yes, and just to get on the topic of toxicity, what do you think is the most toxic of fandoms, at least based on that list that we have?
So for the superhero group, is it related to the source material or how close does it stick? Along with kind of anime and manga people, it can be bad, but people can at some point get over it. It's not the end of the world. And like, I think a lot of more people are just like, whatever. And it's like, can ignore it. But in the fantasy realm, Star Wars fans are just like out of pocket sometimes. 100% out of pocket. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, come on now. Like I'm talking to you, Star Wars fans, right now. You guys are complaining about the absolute most. So of course, like, when it came to the prequels and just how much hate that got just because it wasn't in the direction that you guys thought it was going in, or just how when it comes to a certain casting, like how the actress who played Rose in The Last Jedi was bullied off of social media just because of her performance in Last Jedi, and also ended up getting a reduced role in The Rise of Skywalker because of it. But that has nothing in comparison to what's happened with Moses Ingram. She's a phenomenal actress, very phenomenal, and yet just been receiving a bunch of racist tirades just because of the fact that the third sister is an insufferable character.
Right. And just even the actor, like she was Emmy nominated for The Queen's Gambit, which I remember there was like a 2-3 week period where nobody could stop talking about that show. And just even with her, like the character itself is supposed to be hated. It's the character that's literally chasing down Obi-Wan. And, you know, we've seen that character that is like one track minded, has to prove myself before. But at the same time, we are 3 episodes by the time of this recording in. And like, I think she's doing a great job in the role that she's asked to do. And I just think that a lot of people are kind of hiding their racism or sexism as fandom. And it's not true, but I do love the support of just like the other parts of the community, just like kind of repping for her. But I think just even with that, we'll kind of touch on it later, but how we sometimes try to get a seat at the table with casting in terms of it. I can see from, if someone were to bring it up from a place of curiosity of, okay, this character is traditionally portrayed one way, and now they're being portrayed a completely different way and hired for this reason. And we can have the conversation about it, but at the same time, because I'm more in the camp of just create a new character. And we see how popular Miles Morales is in Spider-Verse and just his comics in general, or an immediate show as the new Hulk, or even sometimes the character is more popular than the original. Looking at you, John Stewart, Green Lantern, who is much more popular than Hal Jordan.
A real one.
Based on the Justice League. So yeah, even if you want to just touch on just like kind of acceptance from there.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like when it comes to like acceptance within our community, especially like in the Black community, it's kind of rough, especially like when it comes to nerdom, because of the fact that like in the community, like whenever you like have little understanding for something, you tend to either have scorn for it or fear it. And more often than not, it's typically the scornful side. And going off with that, it also like causes people to develop like some stereotypes and what they perceive as like, okay, this is what this fandom is about. So for example, like what is like your description, or like what do you have in your mind when you think of the prototypical nerd?
I think that they are in their parents' basement. They typically overweight, don't have a job, haven't seen the sunlight in over a month, poor diet, poor at communicating, not really a productive member of society, can barely talk in real sentences. And if they're especially if they're a gamer, just like cursing nonstop. Like it's a lot of people would think that if you just say nerd or geek, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And like with that, like I feel like there's like nothing like worse than what people think about those in the D&D community. Because like all of those things that you mentioned earlier, like they track with that, but also the fact of, yeah, you know, being in somebody's basement, playing a game for hours or days at a time, and like having little to no social skills, and having like, or like people trying to speak a whole other language that nobody else would even think about, like Elvish, for example, looking at you, Lord of the Rings. But yeah, I feel like when it comes to all of those, it comes out of a place of like just misunderstanding like the group, the culture, and just how fun and accepting it can be.
Yeah, and just like even how you touched on with D&D, like I had a character in grad school, Skamos the Weary, who is a level 14 tiefling. But again, like I'm mentioning, I was in grad school when I did it. So, and there are a lot of people like in the group that were just like different backgrounds, different levels of just like education. And it shows that we can be a productive member of society. And then even as you were saying, just being a Black nerd in general, it's that whenever you're a minority for whatever reason, whenever you kind of dip outside your culture, for lack of a better saying, it's like you're less of what you are for some reason, less of that minority. But at the same time, I've just been thinking over the past few years of kind of, there's a lot of duality in people, or more of a plurality, where we're not really one thing, one way, you know. We're not just coins or heads and tails, but we have a lot of different interests. We have a lot of different things that we enjoy. So for me, I can just think of like I love football and basketball as much as I love anime or superheroes. Like that's equal to me. I can go to a Coldplay concert, who's like literally one of my favorite bands, and like almost cry my heart out, but at the same time rap bar for bar to a Moneybag Yo song in my
Woo.
car. So it's kind of just like there's that blend to it. There's not one, but I do just recall kind of how you said middle school is kind of like the roughest period of time where a lot of people blot out memories of middle school, for being honest.
Yeah.
But I know like ever since fifth grade, I had like one friend like leave, my best friend like leave every year. And that kind of sucked. So then I just kind of was like, okay, I'm just going to have friend groups. So like each group fits a specific need in my life. So I can talk to these people about this, or these people about gaming, these people about sports, these people about TV shows, in that sense. But it was like compartmentalizing my pieces of myself and splitting off just to like survive in a sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I really do like that point about compartmentalizing like yourself and splitting off, because that's actually a form of code switching, which for those of you who do not know, code switching is whenever you change how you act, how you behave, how you speak to a certain person or group just so that like you can fit in with said group. So for example, like for myself, really, I pretty much like mastered the art of code switching. I feel like everybody code switches to a degree, but I feel like I mastered it to a heavy degree. So like, and it all started in middle school
Right.
because I was like, yeah, I was your prototypical nerd growing up, but like I also like developed more interests outside of it, like watching watching BET and all the different shows on there, listening to like more rap music and like playing football, watching football and basketball, and just developing like more interest outside of it. So that way I can like legit talk to other people and not be a complete weirdo, at least in their eyes, and feel like, hey, I'm hip, like I'm part of the in crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So like really, but and then I had to find like these core group of people who I feel like, oh man, these are the people who I can talk with just for hours about my love for like nerddom,
Exactly.
and it feels like that's like it's almost like, man, that's the real me that's
Mm-hmm.
coming out and talking, is able to get it all out, whereas I'm using everything else as a bit of a facade or a mask, if you will, even though like the mask has also become part of me.
We all wear different masks in different theaters, if you say. But just even with that own community, we can even talk about just like getting us a seat at the table in terms of other communities accepting us in terms of nerddom.
Hmm. Yeah. So like when it comes to like, being accepted into like other groups, there's like okay, so I know like for me, like when it comes to the anime community, it like for me it all started whenever like okay, I just like talked with one person about Dragon Ball Z, and then we start going into a different spiral into many different other avenues, and it kind of like it almost always starts that way. Like you start trying to figure out about one thing, and then it just grows and grows, and you just start finding more and more and more in common.
Right. Yeah. So just even with this podcast, like you mentioned earlier, it's a chance to get our foot in the door, let other people just kind of hear our perspectives or just our fandom in general. These are things that we generally love and just want to talk about it, like, and talk and hear from it from other people. So it's kind of a chance to connect and then a place to connect with people. And just how it shifted, if we think about it, the things that kind of helped it to become popular, in my opinion, I would say first and foremost, definitely Marvel. The
Yeah,
Marvel Cinematic Universe changed the game. For
yeah.
me, Spider-Man 2, like I mentioned earlier, was the standard for movies, of superhero movies. A lot of movies, even including like Iron Man, Thor and the first Captain America and the Incredible Hulk were just kind of like same general movie if you think about it. But then when Avengers came out, that became appointment viewing. And it was just an incredible experience.
And I actually had a great experience about that, where when I'm much like you, like I was a Spider-Man purist and a Batman enthusiast as well. So
Yeah.
like I'd pretty much primarily like, watch Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, like Batman Begins, Dark Knight, and goated movie, by the way. And I
Yes.
just leave it at that, like, okay, I did watch Ghost Rider, which was actually a pretty great movie. It's funny, but like, yeah, but like I never like took any care to watch, Iron Man, Captain America, Incredible Hulk, because I was like, who cares about those characters?
Right.
I sure didn't. It's just like me, Spider-Man, Batman, and the X-Men. Like we were all together, and it actually took my sister to like take me to the theaters to see the Avengers. And it's funny because like my sister's the type to where, as we mentioned in earlier cultures, like she's the type of like Black woman who would scoff and scorn at a person if they ever mentioned that they were part of like this fandom. And yet here she is bringing me to see the Avengers, and that was her third time watching that movie.
Wow.
So it definitely Avengers definitely like brought superheroes into the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah, because it was definitely just like the first moment where we saw that major crossover. Like we've seen crossovers in TV shows before, but nothing like that on screen where it's like so many movies start to connect to one. And for me, I hadn't seen the Avengers in theater, like that first movie. It took me over a year to see it when I saw it on TVD. What's that? So then I saw it. I was like, yo, this is incredible. And similar to you, like people that I never expected to talk about a superhero movie were like telling me how great it was. And so from there, I would say around when Ultron came out, every single Marvel movie became appointment viewing, where it was like, we have to go see this. And it was like a miniature Super Bowl where it connected so many people. It's one of the few things that can get people off social media for a week because you don't want to get spoiled.
Yep.
And just like the reaction to Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame is like that hype for it was absolutely incredible. I think another thing for me that also just we saw a real shift on the lower level tier, like we mentioned, where in terms of anime and how that probably is elevated now is Attack on Titan. Whew, for me, I think Attack on Titan is probably the most important anime of the past 10 years, possibly the past 20 years. So obviously Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon both laid the foundations in the 80s and 90s. So that's kind of where they found a foothold in America and say like, okay, we can actually be popular here. And then the big three of One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto probably mid 2000s, early 2010s, is also just like real key. A lot of people hate on it now, but we can't deny how popular and how important it was to the growth of anime. But with just Attack on Titan, we saw the storytelling was so different. And it felt so mature compared to everything else that we saw.
Oh yeah, like I just remembered how jaw-dropping that first episode was, and then how just a slap in the face that seventh episode was.
Yes,
just everybody getting wrecked left and right, just like, oh, this is what we doing now.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Let me keep watching. But yeah, also like going into that, I feel like another like big shift, like a big game changer came in the fantasy genre with the advent of Game of Thrones.
Oof, yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, HBO was wildin' when they decided to make that show, and I feel like that was an event to where everybody like they wanted to like watch the show, keep going week to week to see like when the next episode was, see like all the different theories. And I actually have a pretty great story where like it was my freshman year of college, going to college pretty much basically by myself, had almost like nobody who I knew, and
Right.
like I'm in my dorm in the dorm rooms, and I'm just walking by and I see like some people who are just gathered together watching a TV show. So I just stopped in, say like, huh, what y'all watching? It's like Game of Thrones. Like, oh, bet. Can I watch? Like, yeah, sure. Come on in. And these people who like I watched Game of Thrones with every single week for all my time in college, they are still lifelong friends to this day.
Nice. Yeah, that definitely brought people together. I know the final season is a very sour note to a lot of
Mm,
people for like the entire show, but that was also like water cooler talk where before the streaming became super big, where it's like, okay, each Sunday, did you see game that Monday morning, afternoon, whenever you saw your friends or people, did you
yep.
see Game of Thrones? Did you see what happened? Talk about who died. Like
Yep.
it's definitely a connecting. It's like one of the last times we actually, from a week to week basis, would talk about shows like that. So just even also talking about how it became popular, we see more celebs even representing their love of different avenues. We can see a Michael B. Jordan in Black Panther repping a Vegeta outfit, you know, it being inspired, different lyrics of different characters being in songs and just other ways that it's represented. And we
Mm-hmm.
also see just more spaces to talk about it, like podcasts. And, you know, podcasts now are what lemonade stands used to be in the past. And just like different content creators, this is their mowing the grass to make money. Like this, you know, the money is now in it involved as well. So that also helps it grow because whatever you create, people are also reacting and creating. So it just helps it grow. So what do you think's next in this space?
Oh man, you kind of touched on it a bit earlier, but what's next is streaming. So avenues like Netflix, Amazon Prime, because y'all are doing things right now.
Whew.
Disney Plus, HBO Max, Hulu. All these different streaming services, Crunchyroll, for the anime in me. Like all these different streaming services are coming out, and they are providing like different services, different ways of people to watch their shows. And like with the advent of how life is now, with us coming out of a pandemic, and like people are staying home, whether it's working at home or just staying there for medical reasons, people need things to like occupy their time. So what better way than to binge a whole TV show and developing like their love for a certain group or certain like avenues. And I feel like if it's just going to keep going from there, like more streaming services are probably going to get released and release additional content.
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely with you. Streaming is huge. I think we're gonna definitely have a conversation about it one night about like the kind of effect of streaming in terms of content and then the quality of content. But even going from there, I think that once we really figure out virtual reality, that's going to be something that we're going to try to explore more in terms of gaming or like if you have a virtual reality headset, do you take it to the movie theaters or do you do it at home and like payment from there? So I think that's definitely big. So just wrapping up our deep dive, we're going to get into what's hot soon. Just again, talking about what's popular, what's coming out. But before we get into that, we're going to get into our sponsor for the day. So hit us off, Meech.
Oh, yes. So our sponsor for today is the Darkhold. Do you have a loved one who you may or may not be able to see again, whether they passed away or trapped in another dimension? Well, our elder god Cthon has a solution for you. His special book, known as the Darkhold, it allows you to be able to traverse the multiverse and allow you to be able to see, speak, or perhaps even transport yourself to the multiverse, to that world where your loved one lives again. Side effects of this book may include eternal servitude to the elder god Cthon, corruption, and utter Black Air Force activity. Please express extreme caution when using this product. Now we will return back to our regularly scheduled program.
Going from there, we have our Geek Out segment of the week. So ideally, we want this to eventually turn into a fan segment. So you can submit on Twitter or Instagram, even email us like voice notes or audio. But this is a time where we take just something that you're incredibly invested in, something that you've really enjoyed and felt the need to geek out about. So for me, I'm going to start with Ranking of Kings.
Oh my God.
One of the best shows, period, that I've ever watched. Ranking of Kings is incredible. It's an anime, and when I say it and you look it up, you're going to be like, you're probably going to have the same reaction that I had and a lot of people had initially, where you see the artwork for it and be like, I'm not watching this. It looks too childish. And even if you're into anime, you're going to have that reaction, because when it first came out, it was around the time of Demon Slayer, which had like the budget that I've never seen before in animation. And Ranking of Kings is just incredible storytelling, period. Every character just gets their due. Every moment seems to matter. And it has one of the best friendships that I've ever seen just like depicted in any kind of medium, where Boji and Kage are just like incredible and made to like be like that pure platonic friendship is incredible to have. So if you find yourself a Kage, please do not let them go. For me, I remember the first 12 episodes came out and I just like clicked on it and I was like, how is this rating so high? And I was like, okay, I'll give it a chance. And it was like 9:00 at night. By the time I was 9 episodes in, and the only reason I didn't finish it was because I had work the next day. So Ranking of Kings, completely incredible. There was like a 5 to 6 episode stretch where I cried every episode, like incredible. And to say that, it can be cliche to say like, okay, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But I think they do an incredible job actually showing what that means. So Ranking of Kings, I can't recommend it enough. Has actually some of the best fight scenes towards the end of the show that I've, in terms of just artwork and storytelling, that I've ever seen as well. So Ranking of Kings, check it out. But right now, I'm starting to feel some kind of dark energy. A bit nervous right now, like something's happening that I can't explain.
Because it is my time. It's time, our dear listeners, for the Black Air Force segment. Now, I don't need to explain what the Black Air Force segment is, but I will do anyway, just for my own enjoyment. See, those with Black Air Force activity have no regard for anyone's life, whether it be their own or others. They take what they want. If they want it, they'll get it. And they are on pure demon timing. They are monsters. They rep their brand. All right. If you see somebody with Black Air Forces on, do not confront them. Do not fight them, because it'll never end well for you. And what better way to start this segment off than with my favorite character, Venom.
Ooh.
See, Venom, also known as Eddie Brock and the Venom symbiote, they've both been on demon timing, separately and together. See, Eddie Brock, right? When he was Venom, the first thing that he did was to go and commit home invasion, and decided to scar MJ so badly, she developed PTSD. So much so that whenever Peter Parker is wearing that black suit, she gets glimpses of our demon Venom. She had to force this man to get rid of that black suit because of the fact that it reminds her of home invasion and potential life-ending threats. Venom is a demon. Now, the next thing he did, he once again commits home invasion, but he also does something even worse. And that was when he put the paws on Black Cat. Saw what I did there. But yes, Black Cat was just returning home from vacation. She was overseas. She was gonna go visit her man, Spider-Man, visit him at his old apartment. and find that the apartment is empty. Except, no, it wasn't. It was being invaded by a whole demon named Venom. And knowing that Black Cat was Spider-Man's ex, Venom decided to say, you know what, my hands are ready to eat for everybody, and I'm about to show this woman what happens when you disrespect me. And decided to beat her so savagely, she also got PTSD whenever she saw Venom. And that's not even the worst part, right? And you could ask yourself, how is beating someone up not the worst part? Because he didn't only break her physically, he broke her mentally. Because then he decided to spoil for Black Cat that Spidey was married. Like, he just straight up broke her bones and her heart in one fell swoop. Demon. Now, the next moment here is a pretty great moment for me, and I'm sorry to all my Spider-Man fans. It hurt me too when I saw it on the page, but Spidey took L's. Like, he was just a walking L whenever it came to Venom, because Venom knows all of his abilities. He has all of Spider-Man's abilities and is stronger.
Mm-hmm.
He even bypasses the spider sense, his Spidey's get out of jail free card, but nah. Venom one time kidnapped Spider-Man and put him on an island so we could recreate the most dangerous game, and beat Spider-Man senseless so many times that Spidey thought his only option for surviving is to trick Venom into thinking he's dead.
Oof.
How much of a demon do you have to be to where your only option for the op is to fake your own death? And this is coming from Spider-Man. That's crazy. But the biggest moment, in my opinion, is, and I know it's non-canon, but I don't care. Venom, he put his hands on Superman. You heard right, folks. The Kryptonian himself was not free from Venom's wrath. See, in a crossover event with Marvel and DC back in the 90s, Venom found himself in Metropolis, and he sees the Superman statue. First thing he decides to do, just break that thing apart. And when Superman decided to come in with that terrible mullet of his, because he just come back from the dead, Venom just put his claws on him. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, he ran his pockets. He beat him savagely. He was about to kill the Man of Steel. So much so that the character of Access, who was a new creation, had to go find Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe and bring him over so that way they can fight him. But even that didn't work. His Venom said, oh nah, y'all were gonna jump me? Nah, I'm jumping y'all! And started beating him up. And the crazy thing is, there's no way that Venom should have been able to beat Superman with his power set. Heat vision, almost invulnerability. Yet, Venom managed to do it anyways. He nearly killed the man. Pure demon. And that's just Eddie Brock. All the hosts of the Venom symbiote ends up having some demon time moments, except for one, which his name is Angelo Fortunato, the second host of Venom, and he decided to not rep the brand. So, and he did the one thing that no one with Black Air Force should do, and that is run from your op. See, after getting beaten up by Spider-Man, which he should never do, as Venom, he decided to go, oh, I'm gonna run. I'm gonna go regroup, I'm gonna run away like a coward. Venom said, nah, you rep the Venom brand, you fight. You fight till you die. And unfortunately, you no longer wanted to fight. So you know what? While mid-jump, he leaves him. And Angelo fell to his death. Said, you didn't have enough Venom in your veins, cuz. You can't rep the Venom brand, so you have to go. And that is why Venom is a demon. Dear Black Air Forces, please come get your forces, please. I don't want any smoke with you. You got it. You got it.
That was an incredible choice for the first pair handed out. So shout out CJ the Champ for that. But yeah, Venom, we forget that he was a villain because he's in his anti-hero phase. But Venom was absolutely terrifying to read, especially early on in his creation. So just going from there, we're going to go to recommendations. So for me, for both of us, we thought it'd be cool to just share other Black content creators and just kind of in the space as well. For me, I definitely want others to kind of check out a list of names that I'm going to read off and kind of go down the rabbit hole. So I'll just kind of give you something that's easily digestible. So for me, first one, RDC World 1. They are going to be goats of this by the time all is said and done. So if you want to start down the rabbit hole, you can either go anime or video game house, in my opinion. Or if you're a really big fan of gaming, the Walking Dead playthrough, it's incredible storytelling. It's really super funny. You hear all their commentary and it's absolutely hilarious. It's a great investment in time. Next one is Struggle Nation, who kind of introduced me into reactors in this space. They are 100% absolutely funny and their chemistry is off the charts. So what you can look at is any Marvel trailer reaction before Infinity War, just to kind of get a feel of kind of how they are as characters and reactors, and kind of just their love of Marvel, and just kind of see it build up on each reaction. It's definitely something that you'll enjoy. And they also look at videos and react to them as well. So next is also Sylvanas, who there's one set of videos that he does that is people that think they speak Japanese because they watch anime, which is so true if you know someone that is really, really into anime. And people that actually speak Japanese will tell you how wrong you are. So that's absolutely hilarious that you can dive into and then check out his videos. So for more reactors, another big one is your boy Roshi. So if you ever saw the God of War trailer, kind of spoof trailer that they did, it's absolutely funny. It's one of the reasons they got big, but they're also reactors. And I love their Demon Slayer reactions. It's absolutely incredible. So you can dive into that and get hooked. And just to wrap up, two more reactors. It's your boy Rock Lee and then Reanimated. And for them, I would say either Attack on Titan or Ranking of Kings. And Ranking of Kings is the reason that I kind of got hooked on them. So what kind of recommendations do you have?
Oh, yes. And as I said, like I also went with Black creators. And the first is this man, Burleezy. And he's also goated, and he just creates like all different types of content. One of the favorite series that he has is his hood cartoon intros, where he just analyzes the intros to your cartoons from back in the day and just roasts everybody involved in it. But you have not seen Burleezy until you have seen his playthrough of Detroit Become Human.
Oh boy.
You have not seen a playthrough of Detroit Become Human like with Burleezy. Like it's different.
Insane.
And that's all I gotta say about that. That's all I need to say about that, because you gotta experience it for yourself. Now, this next person is my homeboy, is my boy, Blurred Without Fear, an excellent and amazing tuber, and he pretty much primarily focuses on comics and comic reviews, primarily X-Men, which, as you guys know, X-Men is an allegory for racism, which is perfect. And he does like many more comic reviews, but X-Men is like his pride and joy, his baby. And he also does gaming and everything of the sort. So if you want to watch a Blurred Without Fear, go check his channel out. I say start with his House of X 1 review, because that's the current era of X-Men, and that's where you start off at. And then finally, the last thing is actually a comic book that's coming out called Decimation Earth. If you're big into Lovecraftian horror, then this is the comic book for you, created by Black owners. And the premise is it's basically Lovecraft Country, but if the Black characters had actual power and could actually fight off all these Lovecraftian threats. So please check out Decimation Earth and go ahead and give it a nice solid read.
Yeah. So we're about to wrap up, but Meech is going to take a real big breath right now before we get into our plugs. But wherever platform you're listening to, smash the like button, give us the 5 stars, make sure you subscribe, notifications. We'll be, again, hitting you up every Wednesday for the next 12 to 13 weeks. We really hope you enjoy. And where you can check us out at, let them have it.
All right. So firstly, we got ourselves our Instagram and our Twitter, both under at Blerd City 22. That's BLERD CITY 22. So that's 2 2s. And then we also have our YouTube, which is under Blerd City Pod. That's POD. So please check that out and subscribe. Hit a like on our podcast and our videos, so that way you can receive more updates. And then, of course, we have ourselves a Patreon. That way you can just give active support to us as creators and to help improve ourselves over time and to get more quality content as well as exclusive content. And that is also under Blerd City Pod, BLERD CITY POD. And then lastly, we have our own email. So as mentioned earlier, for the Geek-Out segments, we want it to be fan submitted. So you guys can submit your voice recordings of your Geek-Out segments over at blerdcity22@gmail.com. I repeat, it is blerdcity22@gmail.com.
Yes, and going off of that, we want our last episode to be a huge Q&A session. So start thinking of questions if you want to send those in. We're also going to have fan theory segments where we're going to throw out some fan theories of our own. If you want to submit some, you can have that as well. Again, just a reminder on the Patreon, currently we have our Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness movie review, as well as an in-depth character study of Gara. And we also have a Discord coming up soon. For my own individual author pages on social media, we have Instagram, Metri_Dash. So METRI_DASH for Twitter, at the Mad-16, THEMADASH 16. And then on Amazon, you can check out my book, Phantom Pains, A Most Irregular Tale. By the time you're hearing this, it's going to be having a 3-day promotion. So with that, we're going to leave you with some words of encouragement.
And yes, so my words of encouragement is to never be ashamed of what you're into. Be happy with your hobbies and what you love watching or into, and to never let anyone convince you otherwise or try to scorn or mock you for something that you find enjoyment in.
Right. And for me, I would say a big thing is don't be a passenger in your own life. At some point, you have to take control of your own happiness. A lot of people that are celebrating at the destination with you weren't on the journey with you through the dark days and the tough times. And those forcing their own ideals of what's cool, what's popular on you is only going to make you miserable if you try to conform to it. So just chase happiness. Life is short. A lot of bad things happen, but you are in charge of how you try to live your life. So with that, I'm just going to let you know it's not goodbye forever. It's just goodbye for now. And that's the Blerd City Pod.
We'll see you later.